Pensions, a word to strike fear into the heart of anyone who has one, and worry into the heart of anyone who doesn't.
I've never really built up any kind of pension provision. Really, at the age of 60, I'm kind of thinking, oops, what do I do now?
I don't know what's going on with any money I've put in, and the subject scares me to death.
And like death or sex, we just don't like talking about it. And if we do, we won't enjoy it.
People talk about pensions almost like it's a duty to perform, you know, or like you're being given a lecture by a school teacher. For many people, we just shut off. We think, well, I'm a grown up now, I don't want to deal with that.
But why would you want to deal with that? I mean, pensions are boring, aren't they?
Although I might not say it at a party, pensions are actually far from boring.
And you know what? She's right. Pensions aren't as dull as you might think. In fact, peering into the pensions crystal ball, the UK pension industry has a rather bright future, helped by some pretty imaginative thinking.
What we've been striving to do is to challenge the perceived wisdoms, the conventional thinking, to look for new solutions to the problem and to look at it in a holistic way, looking at the risks in an integrated way, and see if this opens up solutions which we wouldn't have thought of otherwise.
One of these alternative solutions is to invest in infrastructure. We heard from 3 examples from LaSalle, Darwin Property and First State Investments, who a decade ago, along with its co-investors, acquired 100% of Anglian Water.
These assets are very long-term in nature. They're very stable. When they're managed well, they provide long-term, stable, predictable returns, which is very much what lots of pension funds and investors are looking for. They're also providing essential services. So they're providing things that we use every single day of our lives that communities value and need. So again, they're sustainable, perpetual in nature because they're part of our society. And when you get that right, they can provide a really, really good investment proposition.
Local councils like long-term investments too, but large-scale regeneration projects are often beyond their means. The government's pension pooling scheme means that councils can club together and invest in developments such as Republic in East London.
This is sort of the central piazza area where we'll be looking to improve the water features, add in more landscaping, more trees, and then bring out these frontages to have cafes and bars and seating for people to try to create a vibrant hub to the estate.
One of the things that we can do is we can target larger assets, fewer assets. We can really make sure that we develop a policy of long-term, sustainable investing on behalf of our clients. And it gives local authorities in particular a chance to develop a really good long-term sustainable strategy that allows them to invest in the community.
While at the other end of the property scale, Darwin Property Investment Management owns and operates 19 holiday parks through the Darwin Property Fund.
Fund managers can have complete confidence in Darwin and the fund because they can come and see it for themselves. When comparing with other investments, let's take German 10-year bonds, you can invest in those and in 10 years' time, German government will give you your money back. Well, here, we'll not only give you money back, but we'll have generated 8 to 10 to 12% year after year for that 10-year period.
In such a low return, low interest rate environment, people need to search harder. They need to broaden the radar. Compared to some of the other alternative investments like hedge funds, I think is very much in Darwin's favour.
It's precisely the need to search harder that has led to companies like Northern Trust recognising the problems facing trustees.
I think if you go back 20 years, it was relatively simplistic to be a trustee. You'd probably have one investment manager. The investments would be considerably more simple than they are today. I think if you look now, the number of investment managers, the number of service providers, the complexity of the investment types are all becoming more and more complex and sophisticated. So the pension fund trustees really need to be looking to someone who can bring that information together, can partner with them on bringing that together in a usable format and creating solutions that help them meet their needs.
Relationship is paramount to everything we do. I think without a good relationship, you can't truly understand the client, what they want to achieve, certainly all the sort of softer stuff that isn't written down on paper. So when you're working with them, understanding their preference for risk, return, asset classes, and really understanding in detail what it is that they want to achieve enables you to then take that to the various teams that we have here
For Penfida, preparation is everything. They equate the level of preparation that trustees should apply when looking at corporate event risk to that required to walk to the South Pole, something that Arabella Slinger has first-hand experience of.
I put in the same diligence and the same effort in terms of looking after my clients' interests and assessing the risks that they're facing that I did in assessing the risks for Antarctica. When you come back and you reflect on it, you actually see that the parallels between going on an adventure and undertaking an expedition like that and your corporate life are exactly the same.
You wouldn't go into the Antarctic without taking expert advice and probably taking a guide. We've been in the corporate finance world for some of us for 3 decades. We've been in Penfida for 1 decade. We have a lot of experience to bring to the table, and we think that trustees should be looking for experienced guides to try to help them to make the best of these corporate scenarios that present themselves.
But to date, not all of the solutions have been affordable to every employer. TPT Retirement Solutions have realised that economies of scale can be of great benefit to employers for whom every penny counts.
The key benefits we bring to our clients are convenience and saving money. So convenience in the sense that you don't have to coordinate a lot of resources, advisors, cost saving because we've got it under one roof, and we're a not-for-profit company. So we're in it for our members and our employers. From an investment perspective in particular, there are advantages in that we can bring investment solutions which typically smaller and middle-sized schemes couldn't afford.
As the charity, we rely on the pensions trusts to manage the assets for us. We want them to do that in a way that gets us a good return, that minimises the risk and volatility, but also that meets our ethical criteria. It's very important for us that the assets in our pension scheme are invested ethically, and the pensions trust, TPT Retirement Solutions, do that for us, following a set of guidelines we've agreed with them.
Sharing economies of scale is also what lies behind Deloitte's pension master plan. It looks to bring together different defined benefit schemes into a single trust.
It's not just about cost efficiency, it's also about quality. And what we found was that for some of our smaller pension schemes, they were struggling to gain access to some of the innovation and some of the service levels that were available to their larger counterparts. What we wanted to do was to build something where they could have access to those greater innovations, but at a cost that they could afford.
What we're trying to do with the Deloitte Master Plan is ensure that the individual scheme level governance is as strong as it can be, with an overarching governance framework to ensure consistency, value for money and good compliance.
But no matter how hard you stare into your crystal ball, the world is an unpredictable place. So how do you deliver predictable pension fund results in an uncertain world?
We think about 1 in 6 pension funds will probably fail. They probably won't be able to pay their members what they've been promised. So it's all about thinking about the possibilities, what might happen in the future, and how do we help protect our clients against those things going wrong.
So the key thing is that these mathematical models don't allow for the human element. Human emotions play a very big part in investing, and they don't allow, when they look at these very long-term time periods, for periods of real stress. So we have events like Brexit, the European crisis, hitting pension funds, and because they have these very static asset allocations, they really don't know how to adapt. They feel like they're almost just subject to whatever weather comes and hits them.
My advice, take sun cream, an umbrella and a coat, because you never know what's going to happen with the economy. Rather than expecting the best, it's better to be prepared for the worst, so your pension scheme doesn't get caught out.
We always focus on the liabilities to begin with, because we don't believe that anyone can really predict with any degree of certainty what is likely to develop over the long term in the world economy. There are so many uncertainties there.
You don't win the race by going very, very, very fast at the beginning and then hoping you can just about keep it going to the end. I think the investment analogy is we're very clear from the outset that in order to succeed, there's a certain level of return we need to generate, and that we need to generate that return as stably as we possibly can. And that has 2 important outcomes. It gives the members the certainty that their benefits will be met, and it gives the sponsors much more certainty over the level of contributions they'll have to pay in.
Of course, in the end, it's up to us all, individually, to ensure our pensions suit our retirement needs. And that's becoming easier with some smart tools at our disposal.
The responsibility for saving for retirement really does rest with the individual now, and therefore I think it's crucially important that individuals understand the challenge that is ahead for them, and really that they start to save more for their retirement. So the Corrie tool that we've developed really helps them to do that, to translate what they've got saved into an income in retirement and to recognise the shortfall.
So the two pieces of information you need to use the tool are your age and your savings. Those two bits of information are very simply input into the tool, and then it will calculate your likely retirement income.
We've developed a website that is a membership-based organisation. It's not designed to replace the work of an independent financial advisor. It's preparing you to be able to talk to an independent financial advisor with the knowledge of what you want to achieve and where you're aiming to get to.
There are tools, calculators, you can even draw up a plan using some of the stuff that we've got on there. It's not just about pensions, it's about all the other things you could do to make your financial situation better in later life. From carrying on in work, from maybe even starting a small business, through to factors such as drawing on the equity in your house or even moving abroad, which is a solution financially for many people that they don't understand they've got.
Meanwhile, Procentia's software IntelliPen allows pension administrators and members to check the value of their pensions and calculate potential benefits.
Pensions features in the news all the time, which is great, and that's forcing us to think about new ways of communicating with members, particularly obviously online. And it's great to now be in an industry that is actually thinking about its members before they retire. Members have got more choices than ever, and technology can really help there because a lot of the members can't maybe afford financial advice. So we're able to give them access to really good information about their pension because we know exactly what they've got.
And what they've got generally isn't enough. The average UK citizen would like to see a pension of around £23,000 a year. Now that would mean putting in around 15 to 20% of their annual income into the pension pot. But currently, we only save around 7%. So as you can see, we're still in denial.
One of the classic problems in pension investment is that we're all focused on the present and struggle with thinking about the future. We know in the national statistics that men save more than women in terms of retirement benefits, retirement wealth. So why is this? Perhaps it's women who aren't saving or investing as aggressively in their DC pension schemes. Turns out that's not true. For a given level of income, women save more and invest equally as well as men do. Turns out that women have lower wages than men. That's a known disparity in the economy. And that's why they have lower retirement accumulation.
Some people do see the word pension and just completely shut down, and that I understand. I've got no illusions about that. I think it's just to remember to relate to what matters to people. And if you talk about security, if you talk about choice, if you talk about understanding, you're reaching people then. The purpose of today's presentation, it should take no more than 15 minutes of your time, is to look at the provider and default fund performance, because the pension's been running for coming on to 14 months now. They performed very well, and I'm very glad and very relieved to tell you that the switch was a good thing.
But with automatic enrolment now making it compulsory for employers to register their eligible workers into a pension scheme, the PLSA have set up the Pension Solution Platform to assist those organisations who have never had to even think about pensions before now.
We also went out to 500 different employers who have been through automatic enrolment and asked about their experiences and have uploaded that into the site. So that's a kind of star system which says how was the provider in communicating with me, for example, or how has the ongoing support been. And so that's a really unique side of the website which helps people make really informed decisions.
Another way of assisting decision-making comes in the form of the PLSA's Retirement Quality Mark, or RQM.
The Retirement Quality Mark is a really exciting initiative. It's there really to accredit certain retirement income products. I'd hope that as the market in retirement products develops, that we see products come onto the market that are built around those standards, that we can start to build around some well understood, good quality standards that help build trust and confidence.
There are sometimes groans from product providers because we're pushing the boundaries. We're setting demanding targets for them.
While automatic enrolment has obvious benefits, it can also create brand new problems. According to a survey commissioned by the DWP, on average we have 11 employers during our working lifetime. Given that each one of those will now have a pension attached to it, how do you keep track of them all? The pensions providers asked not-for-profit organisation Origo to create a system to deal with employees' expectations.
They expect to be able to move bank account seamlessly and quickly. They expect to be able to pick a utility provider and have that move really quickly. So their expectations are going to be exactly the same for those of us working in financial services and in pensions.
It's a bit like trying to move data from point A to point B. If there's just two parties involved, they can sort that out themselves. But as soon as you start introducing third party or a fourth party or a fifth party, the complications start to grow exponentially. And it's much easier to put a black box in the middle that can take care of all that complication so that everybody's just one place to link to.
And wading through all that data isn't just a problem for the pension holders. Do you have any idea how often pension legislation changes?
And after Maxwell, which was really the kind of gear change in pensions, the flood of legislation became virtually unstoppable. And we're running at a roughly 2,000 to 3,000 pages of rules a year, new rules coming on, and they change the old rules, they adopt them, they amend them, they repeal them.
So to lessen the burden, Pendragon created Perspective, a continually updated, accurate online information service covering every piece of text relating to pensions. So as they say in all the best adverts, now here's the science bit. Because despite our supposed lack of interest, there's still a fair degree of learning and experimentation going on.
Most people won't get to retire at 65, but in a way that's a good thing. It's the reality of living a lot longer. So the reality is the trend is already well underway, with people working longer. So around 1 in 4 people is now working between 65 and 70, which is just about doubled from where it was 20 years ago. It's all about putting enough in to get the right reaction in retirement, the right outcome. And the reality is that if you don't put enough in during your working life, you won't get enough out of it once you retire.
Yes!
Ah, yes. She may well look fed up. After all, who knows what the retirement age will be by the time she ends her working career. But the last 10 years have given the pensions industry a lot to think about, and the lessons have had to be learned swiftly. However, it does mean that the art of crystal ball gazing will give workers a much more accurate prediction than ever before.
I would like that, because then I know what I'm getting, you know, I can budget for that in the future. You know, I won't have to be in the cab until I'm like the rest of my hair falls out, do you know what I mean?